This video is an introduction to Illustrator and the pen tool. The file that you'll be working in has been prepared, and the contents of this file include 6 work layers, of which 3 are for each variety of line to be drawn. Each layer is titled, and you should work in the appropriate layer according to the type of line you are drawing. A 10mm grid with 10 units is in green. Guides, which mark out and divide the workspaces, are in red. Turn the grid on or off by holding the Command key and the quotation marks. Turn the guides on or off by holding the Command key and the colon key. Throughout this tutorial, you'll be asked to pause and have a try. Okay, let's make a start. Let's turn on the grid and the guides. Now, also, we need to make sure that we have turned on the Snap to Grid function by going to View on the top menu and making sure there's a tick right beside Snap to Grid. Okay, we're going to be using the pen tool, so let's select it. The shortcut is P. Don't get confused with the pen tool below it. We're using the one above. If you hold the pen tool, if you click on and hold, you'll be able to see a range of other variations of the pen tool. We're simply using the one at the very top. Okay, so we've turned on Snap to Grid. We're going to be using the guides and the grid, so let's commence. We're going to start at the edge of the box here and go all the way across to make a second anchor on the other side. Because we have Snap to Grid, it's giving us automatically a straight line. If Snap to Grid wasn't on and you wanted to make a straight line, you simply hold the Shift key. Okay, so I'm going to hold the Command key and click off, and lo and behold, there's nothing there. Now this is because if we look at this stroke and fill, there's no selection of color. There's no black or white. There's nothing there. There's simply the diagonal red line, which signifies that these are empty. So we need to select that line again, and using the direct selection tool, I've selected the line, and now I go back, and in here I have a default setting. It will give a white fill and a black stroke, and there we have it. Now we don't want the fill, all we want is a stroke, so we click on the fill and then knock that out and then put the stroke back on top. Okay, and now we can continue. In this first box, we're going to repeat horizontal lines. Now there's a number of ways we can do this. We can go back to the pen tool and create another line. With the Snap to Grid function on, we can make straight lines repeatedly using the pen tool, but each time we need to click off. That's to say, hold the Command key and change from pen to the direct selection tool or the selection tool, and click away from the object selected, and that will deselect it. So with the lines deselected, we can make another line. Because Illustrator has the facility for copy and paste, we can copy these lines, and rather than creating new lines each time, we can just paste copies. So we've got 3 lines. Click off, select, and Command C, Command F. Command F simply means that you're pasting in the same location you copied from, and using either the Shift key or simply going down with the arrow key on the keyboard, just move them into position. So we can select those again, Command C, Command F, and with the keyboard arrows, we can just move them into position. And select again, Command C, Command F, and move these down. And in no time, we'll have this whole box filled with horizontal lines. Whoops-a-daisy. Command C, Command F. And finally, Command C, F. Now this time around we're going to have more than what we need, so we have to delete the excess. So we have all of these just to get rid of. Select the ones you don't want and delete. And because we're working in layers, and the annotation which reads lines running horizontally, that doesn't get selected because that layer in the instruction layer is locked. So no matter what we do, we can't interfere with that. Can I just show you very quickly how we can make these lines either lighter or heavier, thinner or wider. So you can go to the stroke option up the top menu, or on the right hand side, select before you do anything. And we're using the selection tool, the black arrow, for this purpose. And at 0.5, that's what it looks like. Or we can have lines which are at 2 point, so that they're very heavy. And you get a better idea what it looks like when we get rid of the guides. So that's our 2 point thickness horizontal line. And this time we're going to make lines which are vertical. The same logic applies. We're snapping to grid, and in order to do the next line, we need to hit the Command key and then click away, and that deselects. If you didn't do that, this is what would happen. I'll make a new line here, and I'm not going to deselect. I'll just go on and continue. It basically joins. It's one continuous line. So in order to avoid a continuous line, so this is a line made up of 3 anchor points, we need to, every time we finish a line, we need to hold the Command key and click away. And again, copy and paste, Command C, Command F, and move it across. Select all of them, Command C, Command F, move it across. Then we can just get rid of the excess number. Okay. Final one is lines running diagonally. This time we'll start by making an anchor in the corner to corner. I'll zoom in just to show you what's happening here. So Command key, deselect, then we can go to the next. So we're leaving one space, then going to the next one. So we're leaving one, we're starting again. Let me make this a little, let me just zoom out a bit so it makes life easier to go across. And bang. And there you have it. So we've got a space. Oh, that's one too many. So if I can just get off that, so Command click. If I hold the Command key, I get the direct selection tool, because that's the last tool I used. Select that and drag it into the correct position. Now, when we scroll down through that diagonal line, we can see that it is parallel. Whereas before there were 2 spaces on the top and only 1 space at the bottom. So once we've done that, if we proceed with the previous method, we're going to have a couple of issues, but it's easy to get round. So if we copy Command C, Command F, look what's going to happen. We're going to have lines which are longer than what we need them. So we have lines here which exceed the parameters of the box. You shouldn't worry about that at the moment. I'll show you what we can do once we complete this. So we've got Command C, Command F, and I'm using the arrows on the keyboard to move them across. Command C, Command F. Okay, these last two I will not need, just delete them. And right, we need to slice off all of these here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select everything that exceeds the parameters of that square. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to go to the razor tool and change it to scissors. And we can line the scissors up with the vector or the path, and click and delete, and click, delete. Let's copy all of these lines and flip them to the empty side. But before we do, we're going to group these lines. So select all the lines. The fastest way to make a selection is either to drag over all the things you want to select, or in layers, you can go to that layer. Because I'm a silly duffer and I put all the work on the one layer, I have to now separate them. So let's do that first before anything else. I'm going to select just the vertical lines, Command X. That's better. I'm going to lock the horizontal layer, go to the vertical layer, Command F. There it is. And you'll notice that everything in the layer vertical lines is in purple or violet. Now we'll do the same with the horizontal line layer and select all the lines which are diagonal. Command X, we've cut it. X is to cut. Then we're going to lock it again, go to diagonal lines, Command F. Good. That's much better. I'm going to unlock that horizontal layer. So we've got diagonal lines, we've got vertical lines, and we've got horizontal lines. Let me show you the next thing we need to learn, which is grouping. So select everything in diagonal layer, and which is going to this little circle and clicking on it, and it selects everything on that layer. That's one way of selecting things on the layer. Or click and drag with your selection tool. And we're going to go Command G, or right click, group. So now whenever I click on one line, it selects all lines. I can change that by ungrouping. This is handy because we're going to move things around in chunks. So I'm going to select every line on that layer, Command C, Command F. You can't quite see it. There you go. But I've made a copy. What we want is to fill this space up. So the best way to do that is either go Transform Reflect or Transform Rotate. And let's try rotating that at 90 degrees. Let's rotate that at 180 degrees. The preview gives us a preview. There we go. That's what we wanted. So that's been rotated at 180 degrees, and now it's filled in the whole square. But we know that if we select that, we've got one half selected or the other half selected. These lines are still ungrouped. Excellent. So we've managed to create our horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines.